Hey, it's Diane Franklin, Princess Joanna from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, and Monique Junot from Better Off Dead, or Karen from The Last American Virgin, or maybe you know me from Amityville Part 2, The Possession, or Amityville Murders. And I'm here on the RockStop with Chris Contra.
Okay, welcome into the RockStop. Chris Contra here. My guest tonight, a very lovely and talented actress. You may know her from the movie Better Off Dead, Last American Virgin, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I mean, she's got quite a resume. This is Diane Franklin. How's it going, Diane?
Hey, Chris, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Hey, great to have you here. So I mean, that's as I said, is a very impressive resume. So I did see on your Twitter recently that you got together with your old co-star from Better Off Dead, John Cusack, for the first time in quite a while.
Oh, my gosh. So this was a monumental event. I've been telling everybody, you know, this is like a huge thing, and I'm so happy that that we got to meet, because we haven't met for over 30 years.
Wow.
I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, isn't that crazy? It was funny because, you know, I mean, I guess everybody sees what everyone else is doing on the internet, but it's different when you run into a person, you know, that you worked with. And, you know, I didn't know if John, you know, how he would feel about me. I didn't know if he would be like, yay, it's Diane, or if he'd be like, oh, whatever. You know, now I've been with all these other big actresses, and, you know, I was kind of nervous.
Really?
And it was kind of funny, yeah. I mean, because, you know, I've had people tell me that they've met him, and he's, you know, kind of, you know, was a little bit shy, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. So it was really interesting because John has a lot of fans. I mean, people love him, and from so many different films. So when he shows up, like, they might not know who I am because they might know him from other films. So when we were at this convention, I really think he did this convention because of me, because there were a lot of people there, but I know John, you know, he could, you know, he could have a, you know, his own show if he wanted. Mm-hmm. And I was just so I could, when he got there, you know, he went, oh, Diane, and we hugged, and I was just so happy to, you know, see him. And he was just like, you know, we'll talk, you know, we could talk later, and because we know that people right away want to have, you know, autographs.
Yeah. So
what I thought was, when I saw him, it suddenly brought back all these memories of when we worked together. And when we first worked together, back in the 80s, it was 85, it was John's, I think, second or third film, and I think he was 19, and I was probably, I'm trying to think, I was an old woman, probably 22 or so, 23, I don't know, an old woman. When we did the film together, he was shy. He was outgoing and fun. I mean, he was fun, but he was still shy. So it was interesting because I realized, oh my gosh, like, it's the same John. Like, it is the same John. I think just kind of, he's still shy. Like, he's like, he's sweet. He is sweet, but I think he just is very, you know, he's not outgoing, and I'm very outgoing now, certainly. I don't know. I just have a different way of being. So what happened was, we went to the convention. This was the Hollywood convention in Chicago. By the way, I love Chicago. And my son actually is going to school at DePaul, so I'm excited. I visit him there. So, big fan of Chicago. So I went to, he went to the green room to take a break, and I thought, oh, this is my moment. So I went to see him, and we talked, and we just reminisced, and we talked about, you know, Better Off Dead, and we talked about what I'm doing now. And, you know, I knew that, like, he didn't know what my life was now, and, you know, I was trying to, like, you know, tell him that we should work together. I said, you know what, we should work together. If he's into it, I would totally do a film with him.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know if that's something he's into. He might be, I mean, even honestly, it would be even interesting if we did a horror film together. Yeah. I just think it's something so different. And certainly, like, I mean, I just did Amityville Murders, which is more of a drama. And if you know, if you want to do a drama, I would do it with him. So I just think what's interesting for us as a film couple is that it would be interesting to work again together, and I think audiences would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think
I think they would have fun, right?
Yeah, I have to agree with you, and I think looking at all those years that went by, so you really didn't see him in almost 3 decades, and you saying he's pretty much the same dude, huh?
Yeah, he is. I mean, I would say that like he's a little more like. I mean, look, it's kind of interesting. Like if you thought of somebody that you were in school with, who was friends with, and who was kind of a shy person, if 1,000 people came up to him, that person would close off. They would be like, I can't talk to anybody. Like they would be kind of uncomfortable, okay?
Uh-huh.
And I think that's where John gets, like with all these people, when they come up to him, I think, he sees himself, and I remember this as an actress too, like when you're just acting and you're not in the public, like talking to people so much, you feel like, why do people want to talk to me? I want to just do my job. I want to act.
Yeah.
But when now in today's society, actors are expected to be conversational and sort of just like if they are a shy person, well, it's kind of like not that fun for people who are listening. So I think that it's interesting because I learned to be more verbose as I got older, but I originally was very shy. And I mean, I talked, but I was shy about myself.
Mm-hmm. And
so it just took me a while to get more comfortable. And I think the truth is that I just like people, and I feel like as a grown up person, I can give, and I want to like bring back memories for people. And I don't know, hopefully John will come to a place in his head where he'll be like more comfortable. And I think he's doing a lot more talking, and he's doing more shows. So maybe that's gonna be helpful.
Yeah.
We had a great moment,
yeah,
and it was very fun. And we took pictures together, and it was just very cool. So I'm glad. And so who knows? I mean, I don't know if we'll ever work together, but that was a moment in time for me. It was special for me.
Very cool. So I mean, again, if anybody hasn't seen the movie, they starred together in Better Off Dead. A great movie. So anybody want to see Diane and John together, you go check out Better Off Dead until we get something else, huh?
Exactly, and I was going to say, and they took like this. I said, let's find something in the film, so don't be confused. Yes. And they'll be like, who's this lady? Where is she? I don't know, because there's only this French girl.
You are the French girl, yeah.
Yeah.
When did you start auditioning? Did your parents kind of push you into it, or was it something that you had interest in on your own?
This was such a good question. I knew I wanted to be an actress at 4 years old. I knew it. I wanted to be on TV. I was one of those kids who said to the parents, I want to be on TV. I want to be an actress. Mm-hmm. I think that Marlo Thomas was my inspiration because she had a TV show called Batgirl where she played an actress. And she had a lot of energy, and she was very fun and cute, and I really liked her energy. And she was one of the few dark-haired actresses that I could, kind of model and relate to. Like I could connect with her. And at the time, all these actresses were blonde, straight, blue-eyed, and that was me. I think when we, as people look into the television and film for someone that's kind of like them, and once you find that person, or people, then you just connect. So, and then you're a fan. Then you're just a fan for life. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
So, for me, I started young, and I wanted to do it. So my parents, they were German, and they were took like this, German and Austrian. So they were like, what do we do with this child? I don't know what to do. It's like, they were so confused. I mean, they were immigrant parents, and I just didn't give up. I wanted to do it. And when I started acting, I had short curly hair. Like they tried to get me an agent when I was 4 or 5. I was really into it. But the agent was like, come back when her hair's long, and they could straighten it because it wasn't the style. And I didn't know. I was like, okay, whatever. So I sang and danced, and I took lessons. And then when I was 10 years old, I asked my parents again. And so, I just didn't give up. Yeah. And I think it says a lot for someone who wants to be in the entertainment business is if you have a resilient personality, then you can be in the entertainment business, meaning you can make money doing that, what you love.
Yeah.
If you don't have that resilience, then you can do another job and then do that acting or singing or whatever as a hobby. doesn't mean give it up. It just means you may not have the resilience to just make a living on it. And when you're making a living in a creative world, you have to open up the world. So you may make, as an actor, I would do commercials and soap opera and theater and hand modeling and voiceovers and, anything you can do, television, film, that encompasses the acting talent. So, or singing, dancing that does. So I think anybody who is interested in that, you have to be realistic with yourself and say, do I like the actor's life? You may be talented, but that doesn't mean you like the actor's life. And so for me, I think it just takes, I enjoyed it, and I think it takes several things to become an actor or a musician,
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? At least in the 80s. Today, you have more options. I mean, today you can be a singer, dancer, producer, actor, director.
Right. There's a lot of...
Yeah. Teacher, right? You can wear a lot of hats. It's more accepted today.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't then. It was not then.
Did your parents want you to have something to fall back on in case?
No. That's hilarious. No, they did not. Great question. No one's asked me that. They were not, they didn't feel like I had to go to college. They were hardworking, but they never said to me, you need to go to college or have anything to back up. In fact, if I hadn't acted all those years, I don't think I would have been able to afford to go to college. I think I would have just had some kind of a job, a local job.
Yeah.
I know my sister, she worked at a bakery. That was one of the things, but she was 19 years older than me. So it was a different time, and that's what she wanted to do. And then she got married, and so just like different lifestyles, so,
yeah.
But for me, I don't know. It's interesting. They never, ever said to me, you should do something else. Nor did they, it was never a thing about how you're going to make money. And I think it's because I started so young, working and having some kind of working ethic. I don't know. I just did it and didn't talk about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I hear you.
Do it. I will say this, that you don't need to go to college to be an actor.
That's right.
And you don't need to go to college to be a musician. You don't need to be an artist.
Right.
But you do have to do. You need to be a dancer. You don't need to go to college, but you need to dance. You need to act. You need to write. You need to do those things, and you need to do them every day. You need to do them in your life and breath because you love it.
Right.
And that's how you get better. And watch people who are better.
That's what I was kind of going to say, is that the entertainment industry is so saturated. I mean, there's so many people who really think they're talented, and a lot are, but some will never achieve anything, and it's unfortunate, but that is the reality of it.
Yeah, today, what's interesting for what I realize, I mean, certainly there's YouTubers, and people get very famous from that. And honestly, people think, oh, that's such an easy life, but it's not. It's 24/7. Okay,
yeah.
Their lives are, and you know what? That's the price you pay.
Yep.
Oh, that's easy. They don't have vacations unless they take their tubing with them on vacation. They don't just get one person to sponsor them. Then they get 10.
Yeah.
I mean, in order to afford living, they pull it together. It is a 24-hour job. So. And you know what? It is whatever you find that makes you unique. Some people have parrots and their whole life is about birds. And then other people like putting on makeup. And because that's very, it's it's not so much about makeup. It's that your viewership can be huge.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody could be drinking all kinds of soda or eat all kinds of food,
It's so different than when you got into acting. I mean, the world is just so different, but there's ways for people to be famous, and then there's does that bother you in any way? You put in the work to the audition, and now there's people that are getting acting jobs just because they have a certain amount of views on YouTube or whatever.
Oh yeah, you know what? It doesn't make me angry, but I do think it's sort of I don't know. It's just the world has changed. Yeah. I think what I feel is very lucky to have acted when I did, because it was still really appreciated. I think today it's harder for actors to be seen as separate because they really don't know. I think like somebody who wants to be an actress is really torn because they're saying to themselves, I want to be seen as a serious actor, but then I have to do all this publicity, or I have to sponsor things. And I think they might feel like they're, I guess, insulting the craft, or, but I think everything demands a craft. Anything you do, if you have a YouTube channel, you're creating a craft yourself. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to rapport with your audience. I will say that success is fleeting unless you have, if you've got some training and some background in what you're doing, your success is going to be longer and stronger because you're going to be able to fall back on technique, or you're going to be able to fall back on I don't know. We can always learn something from other things in the world. And I know, like for me, when I was acting early in my life, I studied actors. And I studied them, and I said, why do I like this actor over this actor? What makes this actor more believable or more interesting?
Yeah,
and that's how I became better.
That's really great advice. I mean, you're of course very beautiful, and you a lot of people might look at you and say, oh, she took the easy way, and she was just went with her looks and became famous for that. But no, you really studied the craft of acting.
Well, I think what's interesting about that is, it's so funny you say that I'm attractive, because I never saw myself as that. That wasn't I never saw myself as pretty. But the funny part was that now that I have a daughter and I look at her, I go, oh my gosh, sometimes I see myself in her and I think she couldn't just play the sidekick. She's really too pretty. She can't play just like the other girl. And to me, now I look and think, oh, maybe people thought that of me. They couldn't get me to play the best friend. So I had to, for years I was trying to get a good part, and I couldn't because I couldn't get hired as the best friend.
Wow,
and
yeah.
finally, the first film I ever get is Last American Virgin, where I played the dream girl. And if you told me that, I would have been like, are you kidding me? I've got this mop of curly hair, and how is that even possible that I could have played this dream girl in this film?
Wow.
And yet that started the curly hair craze of the 80s.
Yeah.
I wrote a book about it.
Mm-hmm.
My second book, The Excellent Adventures of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. But that book is about that curly hair starting a craze. And here's advice to new people who are in the business. It's you don't know what the next thing is. You just have to do what you do, and all of a sudden it kind of takes you. And when that curly hair thing came in and it became in style, and I remember saying to myself, oh my gosh, I did it. This is the moment. I had no idea. All those years I was trying to get roles and it wasn't happening. And I thought it was me. I thought, oh, I guess I'm not good enough, or I guess I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not talented enough, or whatever. And then it turned out, it's just a moment in time where the world's ready for you. And maybe the world's not ready for you, and then boom, one day it is, and you're like, whoa, that happened. And if it does, you better be ready. I studied acting. I didn't study acting when I was younger, but I studied people. And then as I got a little older, I studied acting because I thought, well, I have to understand what people are talking about, like other actors, and what are people who do this for a living, what is their, what are they talking about? I need to know. So I studied acting for 2 years, a minor program, and I also studied acting in other ways. And as an adult, now that training is coming into, now that training really is paying off.
Yeah.
That was amazing, because when I was younger, there's not so much character work going on, at least for me. But then as I got older, much more character work. Now it's really paying off.
Now, I did want to go back to Last American Virgin, your first film. How old were you when you did that movie?
I was 19.
19,
babe.
This movie, it's not a crazy sex romp like you would think, but it is definitely risque. Did your parents, as you were coming, starting into the business, did they not want you to take certain roles? I remember hearing from Dana Plato back in the day how she was offered the role as in The Exorcist, but her mom made her turn that down. It just was too much for her. Did you have any situation like that?
Oh, well, okay, I'm going to just tell you, first of all, I also went for The Exorcist as well.
Really?
And I was 11 or 11 or 12, and I remember getting the sides going, you mother, beep and beep. It was what? I didn't even have any idea what all the bad words meant, which was hilarious. Like, I had no idea. But I was saying them. I had the audition, my audition, but I was just no concept of what they said, which is really funny because, sometimes, they'll have kids say things. I remember, once there was an ad and it had to say the word shit, but they had the kids say sheet. So the kid would say, oh, sheet. And so it looks like shit, and then they could, loop it with the word shit, which was very funny. So it's kind of funny, like, that when you have young people doing things, they'll get the kids to do it in a way that, they don't know what they're saying, or maybe they're... But anyway, so that's the first thing. By the time that I was 19, my parents were European. And for them, it was very much about... nudity is what, it was all about, like, my life, but nudity was a beautiful thing. And violence and guns was not.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't really understand how America had so much violence and killing, and that to them was, like, they didn't like that. Yeah. But nudity was, natural. And I think it wasn't that they wanted to see me nude, and it was certainly up to me, but they didn't say, oh, no, you don't want to do that. Not at all. I think what was fascinating was my parents, and the other thing about my parents, and this is important to understand, is that they were like my grandparents. My mother had me when she was 40, and she almost died in childbirth, and my dad was like 45. So my parents were like, I was raised by like grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
That the grandparents are always much nicer. They're like, oh, why don't you just enjoy your life? Here, have some cake. Or at least they tend to be. They're more, as opposed to a parent who's more like, don't do this and do that. So, right?
Mm-hmm.
The closer in age you are to your parent, I think the more you deal with that. Don't stop. Sit down. Be quiet. But the grandparents are a little bit more lenient. So I think that probably was part of it too. They came from a different culture, they were older, and so they weren't so they were not judgmental.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that's one of the things my dad was always saying, be tolerant of people. That's so important. Because he was German, but he was Jewish. No, actually, he was Viennese and he was Jewish. And my mother was German. And here's a German marrying a Jewish man, and then they living in Long Island, which was very Jewish. So I was raised very with Catholic and Christian, and I was raised with both religions. So I think it was a big thinker that way. But my parents were big thinking too, and I think that was they were more relaxed about that, I guess, and not so uptight. And it was really came down to my being comfortable with it.
Right.
And believe me, I was more nervous than I think they were. I was more like, do I want to do this? I mean, there's nudity, and, I was more, I was shy, but, the other thing, I was very sensual and sexual. I was a young girl, and I was, I just was, comfortable with my sexuality, and I think that, and I really felt like I knew that when I did those scenes that I wanted to I wanted to make it beautiful, and I wanted to make it like I had something to say. Like, I didn't want it to be awkward or weird. I thought, like, making love was beautiful, and I wanted to make it be that way.
Right,
so
right.
I thought, if anyone's going to do this, it should be me. I could do this well.
I think you pulled it off quite well, in fact. And,
Thank you very much.
So, I mean, like, when that's in the script, how was the negotiation? Was it just like, oh, take this off, take that off? Did the director try to get you to do more, or was it just pretty much whatever was...
Actually, he was, on Virgin, they were, Boaz Davidson directed it, and he was really respectful and really great. There was a closed set. I did learn later that we shot it at a football field, and I don't know if we had the rights for the location because it was Canon Films, so that's kind of like guerrilla shooting. Yeah. So I don't, like, it was the middle of the night, and I don't know if we had the rights to do it, but it's kind of like, okay, let's get up here and let's do the shoot, and we're done, let's close the lights. But I do know it was a closed set, and we did do it, and in the, what is that, the football, like where someplace in the valley or something, it was like the box where they do the announcing and all that stuff. So it was high in this building. They didn't do it on the soundstage. And the director was really respectful. It was nothing more than what, was asked in my contract. And also, it was, Steve was with me at that point. That was like, he was so wonderful and so nice. And we just, we had to do it several times. I have to say, I do have to admit, I wasn't just, once and then, okay, put the camera away. But because they have to do a lot of angles.
Yeah.
But I think after the first couple of times I relaxed and it was a lot, easier.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Boaz was from Israel too, so he was very relaxed too. He wasn't uncomfortable. And I think that's when whoever directs, they hold the tone of a film. So he was relaxed and I was relaxed and like with him. So it wasn't something awkward or like, looked at something as like, hey, yeah, baby, let's do this, right? This is some kind of sick set or like, what? It was done, where he was like, okay, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And it was also a remake of Lemon Popsicle. So the scenes, the shots had to be similar to what was in that film. So I knew Boaz had ideas, and he was very respectful, talked to me about it before.
No, that's very
Unlike Amityville Part 2, which was a different story, and that one had to do with, I was asked to do more on that one, and I was 20 at the time by myself in Mexico when this happened. And so sometimes, as an actress, you know what's in your contract and you know what your rights are, and you say no.
Yeah.
And they go, we want to do this, but no, I appreciate that you might think I have a beautiful body, and that's a nice thing to say, but no, right? So, and it's very funny because, you got to say to some very powerful people.
Yeah, right.
You stay with a smile on your face, and you're like, that's not in my contract. You don't have to get all crazy and insulted and,
Yeah, right. And they were respectful of that?
Yeah, well, they had to be. I had no choice. I think what's interesting is, you can't force somebody to do something.
Right,
Every actor, whether it be male or female, you have to know that you have the right to say no.
Yep.
And they have the right to push because that's what they do. I mean, honestly, like, this is like interesting. Like, producers, people have the right to ask. I don't believe that they should ask on set. I think it should be in the contract. And remember, people who are producing films and directing, if you make somebody and force somebody to do something that they did not agree to before, you're going to get sued.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. You're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And it could get even ugly. But if everything's out in the open and you say exactly what you want, you got to let that person make their decision. And guess what? That actor will do it with their heart, and they will give you everything they have if you give it to them ahead of time. And you've got to take that chance. You can't be sitting there thinking, because I think people who make films sometimes think, oh, I'm just going to like squeeze it in. And if you do, you're going to get in trouble. But if you say ahead of time, we really need this, and then you're going to have that actor have to deal with it. And you're going to say, look, you agreed to in a contract. I do know some people who have had that in their contract and then later on have said, I'm not comfortable, I can't do it. And then in those cases, you're going to have a body double, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what that is. But I don't know. I don't know why Americans are so uptight about nudity right now. Actually, it's been so many years. It's been the 80s. Aren't we just kind of done with this already? I don't know.
Hey, I think I have to take the stance that your parents did. I don't see the big deal. I think a lot more is wrong with the violence than nudity. But now, like, for example, now you have a daughter. You talked about your daughter a minute ago. That if she were to do a movie, I mean, would you be uncomfortable with her doing nude scenes? Okay,
well, here's the deal. And I say this. To her as an actress, I would say it's whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because it was a positive experience for me, and if she felt comfortable and wanted to do something like that, then it is up to her and it's her life. And I would have to say that certainly I never want her to feel like she has to, and I never want her to feel like she has to do it to become successful. That is definitely, that is for sure. I would want her to, she would have to want it and know what it was like. Now when I look back at like the nudity I've done, I go, oh my gosh, I'm glad I did that because I look pretty good. I'm like, oh man, that was okay. Yeah, I look good in that, right? But not everyone's going to feel that way. And I think, and I also think like when you look at it and you're beautiful, like that's a moment in time.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's a moment in time where you're like looking healthy, physical, whatever. And so we so rarely see what our bodies look like. And I think like, when guys look at girls, like you learn so much about sex and like bodies when you're watching a film when you're a young guy, and a young girl. I mean, Virgin is the best I think sex education film for guys, really. You learn so much. Now, as a mother, this is a different story. As a mother, and I have a son, kind of feel like, darn it, like, I feel like bad for him that he has to deal with it, or, my mom said nudity. I don't know. That's something for him. Although on one hand, I've said to him, if anyone ever says anything to you, you just tell them, well, why you're looking at my mom, weirdo, so it's like, it's like things to say, yeah. But I would say that as a mother, I guess it's just sort of like, you got to tell your kids do what's comfortable for them.
Right.
It's their life. I mean, truly, let's just put it this way. After 21, it's their life.
Like, okay, Last American Virgin came out in 1980. Was it 1 or 2?
We did in 81.
Okay.
Right. I remember, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, like the same year, I think, or around that time, Fast Times at Ridgemont High came out, which was also a similar, it's kind of similar movie. Did you feel competition, like, with your movie and their movie? And was there a lot of competition going on at that time?
Well, I'm glad you said that, because what happened was, we shot Virgin first, and then Fast Times came out, and Fast Times got all the thunder. Virgin did not do well. But if you look at the two films, Fast Times was the Americanized version of Virgin. Virgin was the European version.
Right.
Virgin, so many ways to say Virgin. Virgin was the end of Virgin, and also, by the way, because the word American was in it, people expected a happy ending.
Yeah.
But it was a European ending. And the European ending says, that's life. That's just the way life is. But American ending is, you got to have your dreams come true. It's happy ending. And so even though, I'm not saying that everything all wells and ends well with Fast Times, it was more of an American film for American audiences. So it took Virgin a while for it to be appreciated or to be seen, because it was like, Virgin was like the underground film. Virgin was like the film that, they was like, your mother wouldn't want you to see.
Right.
You could see Fast Times, but don't see Virgin, because it'll give you ideas, or I don't know what it is. But today, it's an iconic. Virgin is to me, the time capsule of the 80s. It's got 80s music, 80s look, 80s subject matter. The kids acted like adults. There's a grittiness and a realness to it.
Right.
Whereas Fast Times is fun. Love Fast Times. Loved Amanda. I love the fact that Amanda and I are in these iconic films, and then we did Better Off Dead together.
Yeah.
I mean, how cool is that?
Very cool.
So, right? Super cool. So, I think they're both interesting films, but that's kind of how I saw the two films when they came out.
Right.
That they were so, one was more commercial because it was more American, and then the other one was more underground because it was Virgin, because it was more, didn't give you that happy ending that we all expected, right?
Yeah, I think you summed it up quite nicely right there. Now, kind of staying with the similar thing in competition with movies, what about competition with other actresses or things going on for the roles that you were, maybe up for? I mean, how fierce did it get?
Okay, and it's good you say the word competition, because competition was happening a lot during the 80s for young women, although what was exciting was it was the first time that teens got to compete, or like teenage-looking girls really got to compete for leads. Because before that, it would be like a daughter in a story, but it wasn't the leads in stories. And the 80s was the first time where leads were being played by teens and not older people playing younger.
Yeah.
And so that was the first thing. And the second thing was, okay, so originally it started with like Brooke Shields. And she had those dark eyebrows. And her dark eyebrows got a whole bunch of us actresses work, meaning Catherine Mary Stewart, Elizabeth Shue, Lori Loughlin, Phoebe Cates, Demi Moore, myself, all the dark eyebrows. We all were suddenly getting opportunities to be auditioning because we had these dark eyebrows, which Brooke Shields brought in.
Yeah.
And then I brought the curly hair into the 80s. That got Jennifer Beals and what's her name? Julia Roberts, that dark curly hair and Mystic Pizza, and even Dirty Dancing, Jennifer
Grey.
Like all that curly hair came in after Virgin.
Yeah.
So all actors bizarrely help each other. We help get in there, and then suddenly it allows all the other actresses to become sort of a type, and that helps other actresses get work. So first of all, you might think it's competitive, but on the other hand, we're helping each other in the big picture.
Good point. Yeah.
But certainly, it's interesting. I was auditioned for Karate Kid, although I never really competed with Elizabeth Shue. We were different types. That was one film that was between myself, her, and then one other girl, and I don't know who that was.
So you were down to like the final couple for that part?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it could have been me. You never know, right? Isn't that funny?
That would have been cool, yeah.
Karate Kid, you know? And it was between... Now, here's an interesting, cute story. Elizabeth Berridge, who was an actress, she's a petite brunette from New York. We did a soap opera together when I was 17, and I played a girl on the show, and we did a scene together where she comes in as a party. We're like party girls. And so we worked together. Then, like years later, it was between her and I for Amityville Part 2.
Oh, wow.
And so down to the wire between the two of us. And then I got that film, that one. Then years later, it was between her and I for Amadeus. And she got that film. I mean, so crazy.
Yeah.
Competition, yes. Severe competition. It's like, oh my gosh, like down to the wire. And yet at the same time, I never understood we were so different. But we were both petite brunettes.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody must have said, oh, we wanted, these girls. But our energy is so different. I mean, like night and day. She's more at the lower energy and like kind of sultry. She's got like this cool kind of quirky manner, like just kind of thing. I was more upbeat and like just higher energy. So we were in competition, but at the same time, very different. And I think, like looking back at it, I go, wow, it was just really a matter of taste, like, what you want,
Yeah, right.
So I would say that everybody who acts now, I wonder what their experience is, because now competition is even wider. I mean, your a team lead could be, any ethnicity. It could be any look, any weight.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about wide range.
Yep.
And they might even take the lead and say, you know what, we're going to go make this trans now and, make it two girls instead of a guy and a girl. Things can change.
Yeah, Hollywood is definitely much different than it was a few decades ago, yeah.
Exactly. So now the only way an actor, I think, can get work is you just got to audition for everything.
Yeah.
Just go for everything, because you just never know. And don't look back. Just keep looking forward. What's the next audition? Because let them make the decision. As an actor, you do your best. When I audition, even now, I've got some projects coming up. I have a film I'm shooting this month. A small part in a film with Jennifer Tilly and Tom Arnold. And I'm supposed to be in my daughter's film when she does her film called This Gets Rough. And so, like, there's a lot of things, but you just got to keep auditioning. And if something's right, you'll get it. And if it's not meant to be.
Yep.
You might cry. Like, I got sad on some of the things I went for and I didn't get. I was like, oh, I really wanted that. But that's part of the business. And you know what? Frankly, I'd rather go after something that I wanted than never have had the opportunity.
At least you gave it an effort. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and now we can tell the stories. Like, okay, I went for a Karate Kid, or I went for for Freaky Friday, or fun stories.
So stepping away from just the entertainment end of your life for a minute, so you did a lot of these, teen movies and things. How was your own high school experience?
Oh, by the way, you're asking the best questions. No one's ever asked these questions before, so thank you.
Sure, I appreciate it.
They're great questions. I went to a public high school, and I would act and go on auditions after school, or sometimes I left a little early. And I started doing this, like, starting in middle school, which, honestly, kids were like, what is she doing? And it wasn't a thing that happened at our school. It was weird. Okay, you're in middle, like you're in Long Island, you're in like a public school, and suddenly you get to go and leave early because you have an audition.
Yeah.
People are like, what? So it was very, at the beginning, I certainly had to keep it on the low, never talked about it, really tried to keep it like not, you don't tell people what you do, like, because you don't want people to get jealous or think you're snobby and just, it's just not about that. It's not about what other people think. It's about you loving what you're doing. So I never told anybody anything, except my closest friends. And unless somebody, said, oh, hey, what are you doing? So by the time I was like 17, I did a soap opera, and it was so funny. I remember they announced it on the loudspeaker at school. Oh, Diane Cusack's going to be on As the World Turns today at 2 o'clock, whatever. And I just about died. That was the first time that I remember it being like a thing. But like nobody, like people laughed and they thought it was funny, and were excited, but it was sort of more like, hey, our school, someone at the school is doing it. So very different than today. Like, so today it's like, look at me and look what I can do. And it's all about me, me, me. And
right. You just try to stay kind of under the radar and, have your school career be different than your, professional jobs.
Yeah. It was not cool to be vain or showy.
Absolutely.
In the 70s or the 80s. Really, it really wasn't. You were considered then, it would be like, you're tooting your own horn, like somebody else should be doing that. That's not real.
Yeah,
if you say I'm great, then it's not real because you're saying it. So
absolutely.
All the old people right now are nodding their heads going, yeah, right. Yeah, this is true. They're like, yeah, right. What's with these young people? What the heck is like, who do they think they are? So anyway, but in high school, I did the school plays, and I remember that, I got leads, but it was because I really do wonder sometimes, like I think, why did I get that lead or what did I do? But it was because I cared so much and I never made excuses. Like I went in and like, if I was absent, I would tell the teacher ahead of time, or like I couldn't do something, or I'd say, I'd really, really try, I would be there for rehearsals, and sometimes people don't like to have you be in plays because they know like you're going to take off and do the business. So, but I really showed that I cared. The only thing that happened for me in school that was like a bummer, and this was, and actually now I realize this is quite ironic. When I was in 11th grade, I was like in honors English, and I had to take a month off to do a play in New Jersey at the McCarter Theater. And I went to do this play, which was amazing and so fun, and I was 15. And the English teacher, my teacher, said, well, you can't stay in honors English anymore. So I was really kind of bummed because I was like nothing came easy to me in school. I worked my butt off, but I was like, oh man, all right. Well, then ironically, I went back to school years later and I majored in English, and now I'm like getting credentialed and I'm like becoming I'm going to teach drama, but like I have an English major, and that's how I wrote my book. So,
yeah, wow.
English teacher who did bam on that honors.
That's great.
But I'm not a very smart person. I don't see myself as that. I just see myself as someone who is really creative and really interested. I'm so like interested in life and things, and that's like really kind of where I'm at. Like I look deeper into things. I like to know why something is the way it is. I look at a person and I say, why do they behave that way? What is it about them that makes them stand out? And why? How are they thinking that makes them act like that? So I like the psychology of it as well. Like,
it's not always easy to figure out, but it's certainly fun to try.
Yeah, and it is fun to try. It's fun to ask yourself, as opposed to so many people are right now me-centric, and they're like, well, how do I feel? And, true, if you haven't been allowed to feel in your family, you're going to really need to get in touch with how you feel. If your family says it's not okay to be who you are, well, fuck them. And I don't say that easily. I don't use that word, fuck them. You got to be who you are, and truly what it takes to be an adult isn't drugs or sex or alcohol, because that's fun, but no, it's not what makes you an adult. Right? What makes you an adult is saying to your family and people close to you, you know what, I love you, but I don't like you. This is not, I'm who I am, and you may not like me, but I like me.
Right.
You know, and then you're kind of like stepping away and being who you are. And that's kind of like, I don't know if people hear enough of that, but I can tell you that's what makes happiness. So bam on that.
Yeah, I think you had a very good point in that right there. In fact, it kind of brings up, you mentioned Lori Loughlin earlier. Now, there was a big scandal going on with her. Now here's a situation where, you know, some people look at it like, you know, she's trying to do the best for her kids, but clearly in the wrong way. Now, you know, it's like, what was she thinking type of deal? I mean, she's got all this money. She's clearly been very successful. The kids have the world at their feet. And I just don't know that was that was the way to go.
Oh, my God. Well, first of all, thank you for bringing that up. You know, I have known Lori since I was like 12 years old, 10, 12 years old. We did modeling together. We did commercials together. We had the same manager.
Wow.
Lori, well, I'll tell you one thing. I friended her probably a year ago. Just thought, oh, I'm just going to friend her. And she never took my friend request. So I don't know. I'm not the best person to ask right now about her situation. I would have had to say that I would have taken her friend request. I think that's not cool. But I think that in her situation, you know, here's an actress who she worked very hard for what she got, but she was also, I don't know if she herself is judgmental of others. And I don't know, there was one also thing, Lori never went to college either. And I think that that was part of what made her want her daughter to go so badly.
Yeah.
I do think that her situation was, to me, very keeping up with the Joneses. Like, you know, I mean, personally, I don't think it's okay if your kid is not, like, why send your kid to a school that they can't
feel good at
right. And master, okay? You know that kid is going to school. First of all, she didn't want to go to school. And second of all, if she did want to go to school, I guess maybe the idea is, are she going to meet other people whose parents have paid them to go to school so they all bond together? I don't know. And then they're like, well, I don't know why we're here. Well, we're just going to get the degree and leave.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think the thing that bothers me the most about it is, I think it's all the money. It's just the money. I think the money is, I don't know if she would have, if they didn't have the money, or what would she have done then? You know,
right.
What would she, like, it's all this money, and I just think it's not, and with her husband, like, do they think maybe they think people care about what college her daughter goes to, and it's all about keeping up with the Joneses, and I feel bad. It's funny, I don't feel necessarily bad for Lori as much as I feel bad for the kid, but I think the kid doesn't feel bad because the kid's like, you know, I don't want to go to college anyway. So the only thing is that now that, you know, but you know what? I'm going to tell you something, and we can see if this happens. I really wonder if it's all going to just turn around. Whether Lori goes to prison or not, I wonder if the daughter is going to start getting, the family has notoriety now. So maybe they'll write a book. Or maybe Lori will start doing horror films and play the evil person. Or maybe, right? Like, yeah. You don't know. Or maybe the daughter will start having her own website about being honest and, like, turning it all around. And go, you know what, I learned, and let's be, like, real, and let's tell them. So I'm going to tell you something. I wouldn't be surprised if they take, whatever happens, they're going to take this and they're going to turn it around.
Yeah.
And I don't know if America will... how they'll respond, but there's one thing for sure. They've made their name in history, and they're memorable. And so if that was part of what they were looking for as far as where they are, then that's where they are. So, but when the whole thing came out, I have to say, I was just like, I mean, some people were like, oh no, Lori Loughlin, and I was like, oh my God. Oh, no. I was like, I mean, of all the people, it was just so bizarre to me that would be her. So not bizarre, but
yeah. I mean, you knew her. You actually knew her. I mean,
know.
A lot of people that just watched her on TV and stuff were even shocked. Just she always presented herself as very a wholesome way. And I'm not saying this doesn't necessarily take away from her wholesome image in the past, but it's certainly a black mark on her, her reputation going forward.
I don't have a lot of empathy for her, but I will say that, like, for instance, this happened to Brooke Shields, I would feel bad because Brooke is a nice person.
Yeah, right.
She's a good person. She's a sweet person. And in fact, I almost stopped acting because of her, because I thought my main goal in life was to be like a good person, and a good person and an actress.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know how some people are actors, like, ugh, don't talk to me like that. And I was like, why do you have to be like that? Why can't you just be like a nice person?
Yeah, right.
I mean, even with all your success. And with Brooke, she did that. I saw that. I did I did a extra job on Endless Love when I was really young, and she was so kind to me. And I knew her from modeling too, but she still remembered me, and her mom was still nice to me. Like, they were still very nice. And I thought, I don't need to act anymore because this girl has done what I wanted. She's an actress that's, beautiful and talented, and she knows how to use the camera. And she's like, I don't know, there's so many aspects of her. Sweet, and that was it. And then I thought, you know what? Wait a minute, there's room for more. So that's why I continued acting.
Well, we're definitely glad you did.
There you go. Thank you.
Absolutely. And it's funny because, Hollywood, the business, I think, gets to people sometimes. And that may very well be what happened to Lori Loughlin, that the industry just, she became too Hollywood and became, acting as though she's above everything. So,
yeah, I think, and I heard something recently, and I thought, okay, maybe this was part of it. I heard that her dad was somewhat judgmental, and I thought, well, maybe that's where it came from. Because maybe if her dad was like somebody who's like, don't do this, but do this, then maybe that's because, we come from parents, just like with me. My parents were like, nude is a beautiful thing. So maybe for her, maybe she was just trying to please her parents.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It could have.
But then, guess what? You have to be an adult. So you got to tell your parents, F off, I'm doing this. And you know what, Dad? This kid doesn't need to go to a great college because she's good enough, or like she does what her thing is. Or maybe she doesn't need to go to college now. Maybe she's just going to do her YouTube channel.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know where that'll go, but I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, I will say this. I bet she loves her kid, and I bet she has good intentions in general for her child to take care of her. I think that is, what I think for what I know, like, I think that's a part of her. But, and I think she just, honestly, I think getting caught or something was before this thing from her mind. I think it was more like, I got to just take my daughter to the next level. But I do think, well, what was that level? My daughter went to UCLA. She earned it. Was valedictorian. She did her thing. She is strong-willed, and there's things she does. She uses the F-bomb so much, and I'm sitting there going, Olivia. And she's like, but you know what? I let her. She's her own person. She's an adult. She's in the competitive world of comedy, and guys use the F-bomb, so bam, she does. But that's life.
I did want to mention your new movie, the newer movie, the Amityville Murders, which is the in the the series you did part 2 back in the day. Now you got the new one out. So everybody, where could we check that movie out? I got to see it yet.
Okay, so, and by the way, it's so funny. I know this is called RockStop, but I can go through so many different, like, I could talk about so many different genres, and I'm like a real person, and I'm like an upbeat person. I'm not like a bummer person. Like, life is so depressing. I'm honestly, fuck that. So there you go, another one, right? Just like that. You just gotta keep. Life is what you make it.
Yeah.
It is what you make it. So, so in that regard, I never thought I'd be acting again. I thought, okay, I was an 80s actress, and that's the way it goes. And my daughter she came with the generation that was making films. So she was one of the first generations to make films. And so she would need an actress, and I'd say, okay, I'll act in yours. You need a grandmother, you need a mom, you need a, teacher, whatever, I'll act in your film. So I started doing that. And then all of a sudden, people started, some people started recognizing me, and then I started getting some people sending me scripts, and then one thing led to another. I did some short films, and all of a sudden, I get this script, Amityville Murders, and it is out last month, and it was in the theaters, and it was huge, and I would never in my wildest dreams guess that I'd be acting again. I am doing so many films now, and I'm blown away, and this film, Amityville Murders, best acting I've ever done in my life. Best performance.
Really?
I Talk Like This on Louise DeFeo. But these are like, such a great thing to be able to talk like this, because this is where I came from. My peeps are from Long Island, and we talk like this.
Right.
When I was really young, I started to get this voice, and my manager said, no, you can't talk like this. You're going to have more of a middle voice. And I actually had to watch the Nude to change my speech, so I didn't talk like that. But Amityville Murders, telling you, best acting or performance of my life. Love the film. And the greatest thing about it is, since I did Amityville 2, The Possession, as I played the daughter in that film, and that's pretty risque. Mm-hmm. You will love to see this film, Amityville Murders, which can be, right now, it is on all platforms, Amazon, YouTube, Vudu. I don't know if it's on Netflix yet, but supposedly I think it is. It's on all platforms. Check, but you have to type in Amityville Murders. And I play the mom. I'm the only actress who's ever played the daughter and the mom in the same story.
Right.
This one is based on the true story, so it is real. It's a docudrama, so the situation is dramatic, but based on reality. There's maybe like one thing, flying pennies, that didn't happen, but still everything else was true, because the director who wrote it also, he did the actual documentary on Amityville Murders that happened in 1974, where a 23-year-old boy murdered his family. Right. So he knew all the facts, and that's what made it so exciting, and why I really wanted to play this role. And he offered it to me, and I burst into tears on the phone. I was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to play a real person who's going through something. So
you were able to really display all of your acting abilities in this movie, I guess you're saying, because you got to, I guess it's a horror movie, but it also probably encompasses a lot of dramatic acting as well, yeah?
Well, this is what happened. When I started getting roles, my daughter does a lot of comedy, and I thought, I would love to do a real dramatic role, but I thought, where's the drama for a woman my age? Like, where do you find that? You get a token mom in a scene, but where do you find like a good role? And I went, horror. Horror is where the drama is. And if you take it seriously as an actor and you go in and do good work in a drama, in a horror film, it is drama. It's amazing. This month, I think April, it's going to come out on DVD and Blu-ray. So if people buy it, they can see me in conventions, because I'm going to be in a convention at Retro Weekend in Ohio, and I'll be at the Dominican Republic. The Retro one will be in May, end of May, and then I'll be in like the Dominican Republic in November. But if you go to a convention, I'll sign your DVDs, and I'll sign, I have photos and stuff too. There's like TerrorVision. I don't know if anybody's looked at that.
You really got a lot of stuff to sign. People, I'm sure, come up to you all the time with stuff to sign. What do you get signed? What do you sign most, do you think? Memorabilia from Last American Virgin, or?
It's 50-50 it's 50-50 Virgin and Better Off Dead. Yeah. But, then that's weird. Sometimes it's kind of funny. Sometimes I get the whole Bill and Ted crowd.
Right.
And then sometimes we get the Amityville. So I think as time goes on and more people see the Amityville Murders, I will get more people for Amityville, because they're going to realize how incredibly cool it is to have this actress who is in both films. Yeah. That's just like historic story.
I saw somewhere that I haven't seen the movie yet. I got to check it out, Amityville Murders. But I did see that the band The Sloths, with Tom McLaughlin, did a song for that movie, a song called Haunted. I've had Tom McLaughlin on the show before, and
oh wow,
yeah, so he like just revitalized that band. He brought the Sloths back with his latest album, and I thought it was really cool that his song is in your new movie, Amityville Murders.
I know, how great is that? And that was the first music video that I was ever in. I was like, that is just so fun that they did that for Amityville Murders. It's a great song.
Yeah,
they're so cool. And the director, Daniel Ferrand, he just, actually Ferrand, I would say Ferrand, but it's Ferrand. I have to get that out of my head. He was friends with them, and he had their music in the show, and in the film, and I love him for that, because it was a great little touch.
Yeah, definitely.
Really, really
yeah, I enjoyed that. And I'm surprised that you didn't do more music videos in the 80s. You could have been really cool in some good music videos back then.
I know. I was thinking, see, there's another thing, like, wouldn't it have been cool? But I was not with those people. They didn't, I mean, I was kind of bizarre, but I never wound up being with them, but it would have been fun.
Do you have some places where we could find you online to keep up on all your latest, because you got a lot of conventions and things?
Exactly. And I tell you something, because my daughter is, she just honestly, my daughter her name is Olivia De Laurentiis. She just is finishing a Snapchat series. She and her comedy partner, she goes under the name Barely Legal Comedy. And again, if you don't write comedy, I'm not responsible for what you do. Look it on YouTube, and you can follow her. She's beautiful, and she's really funny, and she writes, directs, and acts in it, so you're going to hear about her. But if you follow me, I always let you know what's going on with her. Plus my stuff, I've got these films coming out. I'm doing another one. So that's very cool. And I always post nostalgic photos and pictures. So if you follow me, it's very gratifying.
Yeah.
Plus, my son is a musician, and he just came out for his first single on Spotify, and his name is Nick De Laurentiis. So Olivia De Laurentiis and Nick De Laurentiis. So you can follow them. Of course, my name's Diane Franklin. So, but you can follow me on Instagram, which is actress Diane Franklin. And you can follow me on Twitter, Diane Franklin 80. Number 8 and O, no S.
Mm-hmm. And
you can follow me on Facebook. And that you'll look under Diane Franklin Fans, and you'll see 2 black and white pictures of me under the group. I think it'll be under group. That's me, because my other Facebook got filled up. So my first one got filled up, and they wouldn't give me a second one. So I made it as a group, and so you'll see 2 black and white photos. So sorry, I'm talking so fast. It's just because there's so much to say.
Hey, I'll link your sites and your books too. You got a couple great books over there on Amazon, so I'll link all that. Now,
cool.
I do want to mention. You mentioned your kid's name is De Laurentiis. I mean, you are married to your husband Ray De Laurentiis.
Yes, and Ray De Laurentiis is my husband, and he is very shy. That's why people don't hear about him a lot, because he actually wrote. He wrote for Fairly Odd Parents. You'll see his name, Ray De Laurentiis. So he's a writer, but he's done a lot of animation. He's written Bugs Bunny, and he's written Scooby Doo. But most recently, he's just amazing. And it's actually what it is it's given our family. We have a very funny family. Our household growing up was very funny.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, where Olivia got her sense of humor, and so that's kind of where it is. But he's kind of shy, so I don't he's I want to stay home and watch basketball, and I'm okay, fine, I'm going to go and do the red carpet. I'll see you later. So
right.
But we have a lot of fun, and we have it's funny, we're a very creative family.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So yeah, we have a dog and chinchilla and a Peruvian guinea pig right now, and so that's what's going on. Pretty lots of things going on.
Definitely sounds like it. Is that the De Laurentiis from the Dino De Laurentiis? Is that family?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that. We are distantly related.
Oh,
so what
distantly.
happens is the grandfathers were related, and then what happened was, and in fact I worked for Dino. I did Amityville 4, and he almost did Bill and Ted, but he didn't quite get the sense of humor, so he let it go. He was like, I don't understand this, and so someone else wound up taking it over. But they had a fight, I guess, and then one spells their name with 2 eyes at the end, and my husband spells his name with 1 eye.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that's the difference. But they're distantly.
Distantly,
so
all right.
Kind of
yeah,
ironic.
Every time you see that name, it's a very, very famous name in Hollywood. So, yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah. So, all right, this has been really great talking with you, Diane. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about all this stuff. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, you're amazing, and I loved your questions, and I hope people appreciate this interview because I haven't said a lot of these things before, so hopefully this does you well, and that was great.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot. That means a lot to me. And
send me the link, because I'd love to see what, if people like it.
I absolutely will. I'll send you the link in a couple days, so we'll get that up. And so thanks again, Diane.
Thanks so much. All right. Bye, Chris.
Okay, bye-bye.